The passenger jet flew smoothly through the peaceful night sky. A single dad slept deeply in his seat, his young daughter resting beside him. Nobody knew his secret military past. Suddenly, chaos erupted. The captain's voice screamed desperately through the cabin. "Any fighter pilots on board? Please identify yourselves immediately." The sleeping dad's eyes snapped open. His hidden skills would save everyone tonight. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The gentle hum of airplane engines filled the quiet cabin. Most passengers were sleeping under thin blue blankets. Small reading lights dotted the darkness like tiny stars. Flight 447 from Boston to San Francisco was halfway through its journey across America. It was 2:30 in the morning. In seat 23C, Marcus Thompson slept with his head against the window. His 6-year-old daughter Emma was curled up beside him in seat 23B. She clutched her favorite stuffed rabbit. Her small hand rested on her father's arm even in sleep. Marcus wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans. Dark circles under his eyes showed how tired he was. Being a single father was exhausting work. Nobody on this plane knew that Marcus Thompson had once been Captain Marcus "Hawk" Thompson. Nobody knew he had flown F-16 Fighting Falcons for 10 years. Nobody knew he had completed over 150 combat missions in 3 different countries. Nobody knew the tired man in the cheap hoodie was one of the most skilled fighter pilots the Air Force had ever trained. The flight attendants walked quietly through the aisles. They smiled at the sleeping passengers. One attendant noticed Marcus and Emma. She thought they looked sweet together. A hard-working dad taking his daughter on a trip, maybe visiting family, maybe going on vacation. She had no idea who this man really was. Marcus had left the military 2 years ago. His wife Sarah had died in a car accident 3 years earlier. After her death, Marcus tried to balance military service with raising Emma alone. It was impossible. He missed Emma's birthday parties because of deployments. He missed her first day of school. He missed bedtime stories and parent-teacher meetings. The military needed him, but Emma needed him more. So Marcus made the hardest decision of his life. He resigned from the Air Force. He gave up the career he loved. He gave up flying the powerful jets that made him feel alive. He gave up the brotherhood of fellow pilots. He became a flight instructor at a small airport instead. The pay was much less. The work was much simpler. But he was home every night to tuck Emma into bed. That was all that mattered. This trip to San Francisco was special. Emma had never seen the ocean. Marcus saved money for 6 months to afford this vacation. 2 nights in a cheap hotel, visits to the beach and the aquarium. Nothing fancy, but it would make Emma happy. That was enough. The plane flew smoothly at 35,000 feet. The night sky outside was perfectly clear. Stars stretched forever in every direction. Inside the cabin, passengers dreamed peacefully. Some snored softly. Others shifted in their sleep. Flight attendants sat in their jump seats, reading magazines quietly. The pilots in the cockpit monitored their instruments. Everything was completely normal. Then everything changed in an instant. Captain Jennifer Walsh sat in the left seat of the cockpit. She had been flying commercial jets for 15 years. Beside her, First Officer David Chen checked their fuel levels and flight path. They were talking about their families. Sharing photos of their kids, just another routine night flight across the country. The radio crackled with a new voice. It was not the usual calm air traffic controller. This voice was sharp and urgent. Flight 447, this is Mountain Home Air Force Base. We have an emergency situation. Please respond immediately. Captain Walsh and First Officer Chen looked at each other with confusion. Military bases did not normally contact commercial flights. Something was very wrong. Mountain Home, this is Flight 447. Go ahead, Captain Walsh said. Flight 447, we are tracking an unidentified aircraft approaching your position at high speed. The aircraft is not responding to any radio calls. It is not on any flight plan. Military interceptors are being scrambled, but they are 20 minutes away. You need to change course immediately. Captain Walsh felt her heart start beating faster. Mountain Home, please confirm. You are saying there is an aircraft heading toward us? Confirmed. The aircraft is now 15 miles from your position. It is traveling at over 400 miles per hour. Based on its flight path, it appears to be heading directly toward you. We need you to descend to 25,000 feet immediately and turn 30 degrees to the right. First Officer Chen was already pushing the controls forward. The plane started descending. Passengers who were awake felt their stomachs lift as the plane dropped altitude quickly. What kind of aircraft is it? Captain Walsh asked. Her voice stayed calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. There was a pause on the radio. Then the military controller spoke again. His voice was even more tense. Flight 447, we believe this may be a stolen aircraft. Possibly a small private jet that was reported missing from a private airfield 2 hours ago. The pilot's intentions are unknown. We are treating this as a potential hostile situation. Captain Walsh felt ice in her veins. A hostile situation. That meant someone might try to crash into them. Like September 11th. Like those terrible attacks years ago that changed aviation forever. She looked at her instruments. They were descending fast. Turning away from their original path. But would it be enough? If someone wanted to hit them, if someone was deliberately trying to crash into a passenger plane, could they escape? First Officer Chen was on a different radio channel, talking to air traffic control. Explaining the situation, requesting emergency clearance for evasive maneuvers. His voice was steady, but Captain Walsh could see sweat on his forehead. The military controller came back on the radio. Flight 447, the aircraft has adjusted its course. It is still heading toward you. Distance now 10 miles. You need to take evasive action. Are either of you trained in defensive flying maneuvers? Captain Walsh's stomach dropped. Negative, Mountain Home. We are commercial pilots. We are not trained for this type of situation. The controller's voice became more urgent. Flight 447, the interceptor jets are still 15 minutes away. This aircraft will reach you in approximately 90 seconds. If the pilot has hostile intentions, you need someone who can fly defensively. Do you have anyone on board with military flight experience? Captain Walsh stared at the radio. How would she know if someone on the plane had military experience? Passengers did not announce their backgrounds when they boarded. They just showed their tickets and found their seats. But then she thought about the desperate nature of the situation. 189 people on this plane. Families, children, all depending on her to keep them safe. She had to try everything possible. She grabbed the cabin intercom microphone. Her hand was shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She pressed the button. Her voice came out much louder than she intended. Almost a scream, pure terror breaking through her professional training. Is there anyone on board with military flight experience? Any fighter pilots? We need a fighter pilot right now. Please identify yourself immediately. Her desperate voice echoed through the entire cabin. Passengers jerked awake in confusion and fear. Parents grabbed their children. People started whispering urgently to each other. What was happening? Why was the captain screaming? Were they going to crash? In seat 23C, Marcus Thompson's eyes snapped open instantly. Years of military training had conditioned him to wake up completely alert. No grogginess. No confusion. Just immediate awareness. He had heard the captain's words clearly. Fighter pilot. They needed a fighter pilot. That meant some kind of aerial threat. That meant someone on board needed to know defensive flying tactics. Emma stirred beside him, woken by the captain's scared voice. "Daddy? What's wrong? Why is the lady yelling?" Marcus looked at his daughter. Her big brown eyes were wide with fear. She looked so small and helpless. He wanted to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. He wanted to protect her from being scared. But if there was really a threat, if this plane was really in danger, then protecting Emma meant doing what he was trained to do. It meant identifying himself. It meant leaving her side and going to help. Marcus made his decision in less than 2 seconds. "Emma, baby, I need you to stay right here, okay? Keep your seatbelt on tight. Hold Mr. Bunny. I will be back very soon. I promise." He kissed the top of her head. "Daddy, I'm scared," Emma whispered. "I know, sweetheart. But Daddy is going to help make sure we are all safe. Be brave for me, okay?" Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up quickly. Other passengers were standing too, looking confused and frightened. A flight attendant was trying to get everyone to sit back down. The plane was still descending, and people were stumbling in the aisles. Marcus pushed forward toward the front of the cabin. His movements were quick and purposeful. A flight attendant saw him and moved to block his path. "Sir, you need to return to your seat immediately. We have an emergency situation." "I know," Marcus said firmly. "I am a military fighter pilot. The captain asked for someone with my training. I need to get to the cockpit right now." The flight attendant stared at him. This man in a hoodie and jeans was a fighter pilot? It seemed impossible. But the terror in the captain's voice had been real. And this passenger's eyes were completely calm and focused. No panic. Just certainty. "Follow me," the flight attendant said quickly. She led Marcus to the cockpit door and knocked urgently. "Captain Walsh. There is a passenger here who says he is a military fighter pilot." The door opened immediately. Captain Walsh's face showed both hope and desperation. She looked at Marcus standing in his casual clothes. Doubt crossed her face for just a moment. Marcus did not wait for her to ask questions. He spoke in a clear, military tone that left no room for doubt. "Captain Marcus Thompson, United States Air Force, retired 2 years ago. 10 years active duty. F-16 Fighting Falcon pilot. Over 150 combat missions. Air-to-air combat trained. Defensive tactics specialist. I can help you." Captain Walsh felt a wave of relief so strong she almost cried. "Get in here. Now." Marcus stepped into the cockpit. First Officer Chen was staring at his instruments with fear on his face. Marcus quickly assessed the situation. He looked at the radar display. He saw the unknown aircraft symbol moving toward them rapidly. "Brief me." "Fast," Marcus said. Captain Walsh spoke quickly. "Unidentified aircraft heading directly toward us. Not responding to radio. Possibly stolen, possibly hostile. Military interceptors are 15 minutes away. The aircraft will reach us in about 60 seconds. We have descended and turned, but it adjusted its course to follow us. We do not know how to defend against it." Marcus's mind shifted immediately into tactical mode. Years of training took over. His heart rate actually slowed down. His thinking became crystal clear. This was what he had been trained for. This was what thousands of hours of practice had prepared him to handle. "I need to see the radar," Marcus said. First Officer Chen moved aside quickly. Marcus slid into the right seat and studied the display intensely. The unknown aircraft was close now. Very close. Moving fast. Marcus analyzed the situation with practiced speed. The hostile aircraft was approaching from behind and above them. Classic attack position. If the pilot wanted to ram them, he would dive down onto their position. But the commercial jet had one advantage. It was bigger and could turn more tightly at lower speeds. What is our current speed? Marcus asked. 310 knots, First Officer Chen answered. Our altitude? 24,000 feet and descending. Marcus looked at Captain Walsh. I need you to trust me completely. I am going to call out commands. You need to execute them immediately without hesitation. Lives depend on split-second timing. Can you do that? Captain Walsh nodded. Tell me what to do. Marcus watched the radar. The hostile aircraft was 45 seconds away. He calculated angles and speeds in his head. He remembered similar scenarios from training. Defensive maneuvers against faster aircraft. The key was unpredictability and using your aircraft's strengths. Maintain current descent, Marcus said calmly. When I say turn, I need you to bank hard left. Maximum safe bank angle. We are going to make ourselves a harder target to hit. 30 seconds. Marcus continued watching the radar. The hostile aircraft was maintaining its intercept course. Diving slightly, speeding up. Whoever was flying that plane knew what they were doing. This was not random. This was deliberate. 20 seconds. Get ready, Marcus said. His voice was completely calm. Captain Walsh gripped the controls. Her knuckles were white. First Officer Chen was holding on to his armrest. Sweat dripped down his face. 15 seconds. Marcus watched the closing distance. He was timing this perfectly. Too early and the hostile aircraft would adjust. Too late and there would not be enough time. He needed to move at exactly the right moment. 10 seconds. Now. Hard left. Full bank. Captain Walsh yanked the controls to the left. The massive commercial jet tilted sharply. The wing dropped down at a steep angle. Passengers screamed as they were thrown against their seatbelts. Luggage fell from overhead bins. Drinks and phones flew through the cabin. The hostile aircraft flashed past them on the right side. Less than 500 feet away. So close that people on the right side of the plane saw it zoom past their windows. A white private jet, flying dangerously close. Level out. Level out now. Marcus commanded. Captain Walsh brought the wings level. The plane steadied. Passengers were crying and shouting. Emma was probably terrified. Marcus pushed the thought away. He had to focus. It missed us, First Officer Chen gasped. It actually missed us. It is not over, Marcus said grimly. Look at the radar. It is turning around. The hostile aircraft had overshot them. But now it was banking hard, coming back around for another pass. The pilot was not giving up. He was trying again. Marcus spoke into the radio to the military controller. Mountain Home, this is Captain Thompson, Air Force retired. I am in the cockpit assisting. The hostile aircraft just made one pass and missed. It is coming around for another attempt. We need those interceptors here faster. We cannot keep dodging forever. Captain Thompson, interceptors are 10 minutes out. Can you keep evading until then? We will try, Marcus said. But he knew the situation was desperate. The hostile aircraft was faster and more maneuverable. Each evasion would be harder. Eventually the pilot would anticipate their moves. Eventually he would hit them. Marcus studied the radar again. The hostile aircraft was climbing now, gaining altitude. Setting up for another diving attack from above. The pilot was learning. Adjusting his tactics. Captain Walsh, how much fuel do we have? Marcus asked. Plenty. We are fine on fuel. Good. Because we might need to do some aggressive maneuvering, things that use a lot of fuel. The hostile aircraft completed its turn and began accelerating toward them again. This time from a different angle. The pilot was being smarter. Not attacking from directly behind where they could see him coming. Approaching from the side now. Marcus calculated quickly. If they turned away, the hostile aircraft could adjust. If they climbed, they would lose speed and become an easier target. If they descended more, they would eventually run out of altitude. He needed a different tactic. "I need you to do something very unusual," Marcus said to Captain Walsh. "When I give the command, I need you to reduce speed as much as safely possible without stalling. Then make a sharp descending right turn. We are going to make this aircraft overshoot us again, but more dramatically this time." Reduce speed during an attack approach? "That is the opposite of what seems right," Captain Walsh said. "I know. But faster aircraft have trouble adjusting to sudden speed changes in their target. Trust me." 50 seconds until the hostile aircraft reached them. Marcus watched the radar like a hawk studying its prey. The hostile aircraft was coming in fast. Very fast, probably at maximum speed now. The pilot was trying to make sure he did not miss this time. 40 seconds. "Start reducing speed slowly," Marcus commanded. "Smoothly. Do not let the passengers feel it too much." Captain Walsh pulled back slightly on the throttle. Their speed began decreasing. 310 knots. 300 knots. 290 knots. 30 seconds. "Keep slowing down," Marcus said. 280 knots. 20 seconds. The hostile aircraft was closing rapidly on the radar. Coming in from their right side, high and fast at a diving attack from an angle. If Marcus's timing was off, if his calculations were wrong, that aircraft would hit them. 189 people would die. Emma would die. Marcus pushed the fear away. He focused only on the radar. Only on the distances and speeds. He had done this before in simulators. He had trained for situations exactly like this. 15 seconds. 270 knots, Marcus said. 10 seconds. Get ready. When I say dive and turn, I need maximum effort. Bank right and nose down. Hard. 5 seconds. Marcus could visualize the hostile aircraft in his mind. Diving down toward them, moving very fast. The pilot would be focused on his target. Committed to his attack run, unable to adjust quickly to sudden changes. 3 seconds. Now. Dive right. Full bank. Captain Walsh pushed the control yoke forward and to the right. The nose dropped sharply. The right wing tilted down at a steep angle. The plane dove toward the earth like a falling stone. Passengers screamed in terror. The motion was violent and sudden. Everyone was pressed forward against their seatbelts. The hostile aircraft flashed past them on the left side. So close that the turbulence from its passage shook the commercial jet. Overhead bins flew open. Oxygen masks dropped down from the ceiling. People were crying and praying. Pull up. Pull up now. Marcus shouted. Captain Walsh pulled back hard on the controls. The plane's nose lifted. The descent stopped. They leveled out at 18,000 feet. 6,000 feet lower than before. But alive, still flying. First Officer Chen was breathing in short gasps. His face was pale. We cannot keep doing this. The passengers are terrified. Someone might get hurt from the violent maneuvers. Marcus knew Chen was right. They had evaded twice. But each maneuver was dangerous. Pushing the aircraft to its limits, risking structural damage. And the hostile pilot was getting smarter. Learning their tactics. Mountain home, we need those interceptors now, Marcus said into the radio. We have evaded twice, but we cannot keep this up. How far away are they? 7 minutes, Captain Thompson. Can you hold on for 7 more minutes? 7 minutes. A lifetime in this situation. The hostile aircraft was turning again, coming back for a third attempt. The pilot was angry now. Frustrated. That made him more dangerous. More unpredictable. Marcus looked at Captain Walsh. He could see the exhaustion and fear on her face. She was a commercial pilot. Trained to fly safely and smoothly. Not trained for combat. Not trained to fight for her life in the sky. "I need to take the controls," Marcus said quietly. Captain Walsh looked at him with surprise. "What?" "I need to fly the plane." "You are doing great, but this is going to get harder. The hostile pilot is adapting. I need to use tactics that only combat training teaches. Please. Let me protect everyone on board." Captain Walsh had thousands of hours of flying experience. She was the captain of this aircraft. She was responsible for everyone on board. Letting a passenger take control violated every regulation in the book. But she looked into Marcus's calm eyes. She saw the confidence there. The certainty. This man had fought in the sky before. This man knew how to survive aerial combat. She and her passengers needed him. "Take the controls," she said. Marcus slid into the captain's seat. Captain Walsh moved to the jump seat behind them. Marcus put his hands on the control yoke. It felt familiar. Like coming home. He had not flown anything in 2 years. But his body remembered. His instincts remembered. He checked their altitude. 18,000 feet. Speed 285 knots. Fuel sufficient, all systems normal. Good. The hostile aircraft was approaching again. This time from directly ahead. The pilot had changed tactics completely. Instead of attacking from behind or the side, he was coming straight at them. A head-on approach, the most dangerous kind. In a head-on approach, both aircraft are flying toward each other at high speed. The closing speed is the sum of both aircraft's speeds. That meant they were approaching each other at over 600 miles per hour. If neither aircraft turned away, they would collide in seconds. This was a game of chicken in the sky. The hostile pilot was betting that the commercial jet would turn away first. That Marcus would flinch. That fear would make him dodge. But Marcus had played this game before. In training in combat. He knew the psychology of it. He knew how to win. "What are you doing?" First Officer Chen asked with panic in his voice. "He is coming right at us. We need to turn." "Not yet," Marcus said calmly. "Marcus. We need to turn now." Captain Walsh shouted from behind. "Trust me," Marcus said. His voice was completely steady. He watched the radar. The hostile aircraft was 60 seconds away. Coming directly at them. 50 seconds. Marcus did not move. He kept the commercial jet on its current heading. Flying straight ahead, directly toward the hostile aircraft. 40 seconds. "Marcus, please." Captain Walsh begged. 30 seconds. Marcus's hands were steady on the controls. His breathing was slow and regular. He had done this before. He knew the hostile pilot would brake first. Statistics showed that smaller, faster aircraft always broke off from head-on approaches with larger aircraft. It was instinct. Self-preservation. 20 seconds. The hostile aircraft was close enough now that they could see it through the windscreen. A small white dot growing larger every second. 15 seconds. Oh God. First Officer Chen covered his eyes. 10 seconds. The white dot was now clearly an aircraft. Marcus could see its wings. Its nose, still coming directly at them. 5 seconds. Marcus's finger was on the control yoke. Ready to move if necessary, but waiting. 3 seconds. The hostile aircraft suddenly banked hard right. Diving away from the collision course at the last possible moment. The pilot's nerve had broken. He could not force himself to crash head-on into a massive commercial jet. The hostile aircraft passed them on the right side. At least 1,000 feet away this time. A much safer distance. The pilot had flinched. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "Got you," he whispered. "How did you know he would turn?" Captain Walsh asked, her voice shaking. "Training, psychology, people do not want to die. When you fly straight at them without flinching, they always turn away. Always." The radio crackled. "Flight 447, this is Mountain Home. Our interceptors have visual contact with the hostile aircraft. 2 F-15 Eagles are moving in to intercept. You are clear. We will escort the hostile aircraft down. Great work staying alive." Marcus felt the tension drain from his body. They were safe. The military jets would force the hostile aircraft to land. It was over. He looked back at Captain Walsh. "You can have your plane back now, Captain." Captain Walsh laughed with relief. Tears were running down her face. "You just saved 189 lives. I think you earned the right to land this thing if you want to." Marcus shook his head. "No thank you. I am retired. This is your aircraft. I need to get back to my daughter. She is probably very scared." Marcus stood up from the captain's seat. His legs felt shaky now that the adrenaline was wearing off. Captain Walsh grabbed his hand and shook it firmly. "Thank you," she said. "I do not know how to thank you enough. Just get us on the ground safely. That is all the thanks I need." Marcus left the cockpit and walked back through the cabin. Passengers stared at him as he passed. Word had spread quickly. The man in the hoodie had saved them. The single dad had been a fighter pilot. He had flown the plane and kept them alive. People started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. Soon the entire cabin was applauding. Some people were crying. Others were reaching out to touch his arm or shake his hand as he walked past. Marcus felt embarrassed by the attention. He just wanted to get back to Emma. To hold his daughter and make sure she was okay. When he reached seat 23B, Emma was crying. Tears streamed down her small face. She was clutching Mr. Bunny tightly. When she saw Marcus, she reached for him desperately. "Daddy! I was so scared." Marcus scooped her up and held her tightly. "I know, baby. I know. But we are safe now. Everything is okay." "What happened? Why did the plane move so much? Where did you go?" "I went to help the pilots. Remember how Daddy used to fly planes in the Air Force? I helped them fly safely." Emma buried her face in his chest. "I do not like flying anymore. I want to go home. We will go home soon. I promise. We just need to land first. And then we will go to the beach tomorrow like we planned. Would you like that?" Emma nodded against his chest. Marcus sat down and buckled both of them in. He held Emma close and closed his eyes. His hands were shaking now. The reality of what had just happened was catching up to him. They had been seconds from death. Multiple times. If his timing had been off, if his calculations had been wrong, if the hostile pilot had been more skilled, they would have collided. Emma would have died. All because he took her on a vacation. But they had survived. His training had saved them. The skills he thought he would never use again had turned out to be necessary. He had been in the right place at the right time with the right experience. The plane landed in San Francisco 30 minutes later. Emergency vehicles surrounded them on the runway. FBI agents came aboard immediately. They wanted to question Marcus about what he had seen and done. Marcus answered their questions while holding Emma. He explained the defensive maneuvers. He described the hostile aircraft and the pilot's tactics. He gave them every detail he could remember. The agents thanked him and said he was a hero. Marcus shook his head. I am not a hero. I am just a dad who wanted to protect his daughter and everyone else on that plane. Any pilot with my training would have done the same thing. The story spread quickly. News reporters were waiting at the airport. Cameras everywhere. Marcus tried to avoid them, but they found him anyway. He gave one brief interview while Emma hid behind him. I just did what I was trained to do, Marcus told the reporters. The real heroes are Captain Walsh and her crew who stayed calm under pressure. I just helped with some technical flying. That is all. But the internet did not see it that way. Within hours, Marcus was famous. Single dad fighter pilot saves 189 lives, was trending on every social media platform. People called him a hero. They praised his courage and skill. They wanted to know everything about him. Marcus hated the attention. He was a private person. He just wanted to raise Emma and live quietly. But the fame was unavoidable now. Everyone knew his story. 3 days later, while Marcus and Emma were building sandcastles on the beach, his phone rang. It was a number he did not recognize. Hello. Captain Thompson. This is General Robert Harrison from the Pentagon. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Why would a general from the Pentagon be calling him? Yes, sir. I can talk. Captain Thompson, your actions on Flight 447 have been analyzed by our aviation security experts. What you did was remarkable. You used commercial aircraft in defensive maneuvers that we did not think were possible. You saved lives using tactics that no one had ever tested in a real situation. Thank you, sir. I was just trying to keep everyone alive. You did more than that. You showed us a gap in our security planning. Commercial pilots are not trained for hostile aerial encounters. They do not know defensive tactics. If you had not been on that plane, the outcome would likely have been tragic. Marcus waited. He sensed the general was building toward something. We want to create a new training program, General Harrison continued. Teaching commercial pilots basic defensive flying tactics. How to evade hostile aircraft, how to recognize aerial threats, how to buy time until military interceptors arrive. We want you to design and run this program. Marcus looked at Emma playing in the sand. She was laughing and happy. Building towers and digging holes. Living the childhood she deserved. General, I am honored. But I left the military to be with my daughter. I cannot take a job that requires travel and long hours. She needs me. We understand, Captain. That is why this would be a part-time consulting position. You could work from home most of the time. Create training videos and manuals. Maybe teach a few seminars each year. We would work around your schedule as a father. The pay would be excellent. Enough to provide very well for you and your daughter. Marcus thought about it. He could help protect thousands of future passengers. He could use his skills to make aviation safer. And he could do it without abandoning Emma. It seemed impossible. Too good to be true. Can I think about it? Marcus asked. Of course. Take a week. Call me back with your decision. That evening, Marcus sat on the hotel balcony watching the sunset. Emma was asleep inside, exhausted from playing on the beach all day. Marcus thought about the general's offer. He thought about his life. He thought about what he wanted for the future. He had loved being a fighter pilot. It had given him purpose and pride. But he loved being Emma's father even more. That was his most important mission now. But maybe, just maybe, he could do both. Not the way he did before. Not with deployments and combat. But in a new way, a way that helped people while still being home for Emma. He decided to accept the offer. Over the next year, Marcus created a comprehensive training program for commercial pilots. He made videos showing defensive maneuvers. He wrote detailed manuals about recognizing aerial threats. He taught seminars where pilots practiced evasion tactics in simulators. The program was called ADAPT, Aerial Defense and Protection Training. Airlines around the world adopted it. Thousands of pilots learned the tactics Marcus had used to save Flight 447. Aviation became safer because one single dad had been on one plane at the right time. Marcus and Emma settled into a good rhythm. He worked from home 3 days a week. Emma started first grade at a school near their house. Marcus was always there to drop her off and pick her up. They had dinner together every night. He read her bedtime stories. He helped with homework. He was the dad he wanted to be. But he was also still a pilot. Still using his skills, still protecting people. Just in a different way now. Emma grew to understand what her father had done on that flight. As she got older, she became proud of him. But not because he was famous or a hero. She was proud because he had been brave when people needed him. Because he had kept his promise to come back to her. Because even though the world called him a hero, to her he was just dad. Marcus never forgot Flight 447. Sometimes at night he would wake up from dreams about those terrifying minutes in the cockpit. He would remember the hostile aircraft on the radar. The desperate evasive maneuvers, the seconds between life and death. But then he would walk to Emma's room and watch her sleep peacefully. And he would remember why he had fought so hard. Why he had risked everything. Not for fame or recognition. Not even for the other passengers, though their lives mattered deeply. He had fought because his daughter was on that plane. Because Emma needed her father. Because nothing in the world mattered more than making sure she was safe. 5 years after the incident, Marcus received a letter from a woman who had been on Flight 447. She wrote about how she had been pregnant during the flight. About how she thought she would never meet her baby. But Marcus had saved them. Now her daughter was 4 years old. Happy and healthy, a life that existed because Marcus had been there. The letter included a photo of a little girl with curly hair and a big smile. Marcus put the photo on his office wall. A reminder of why skills and training mattered. Why being prepared for impossible situations was important. He added more photos over the years. Other passengers sent pictures of their children. Their grandchildren, family gatherings and weddings and graduations, lives that continued because Flight 447 had landed safely, because one single dad had known what to do when the captain screamed for help. Marcus never thought of himself as a hero. He was just a father who wanted to get home safely to his daughter. Just a pilot who used his training when it was needed, just a man who did his job when circumstances demanded it. But to the 188 other people on that plane, to their families and loved ones, to Emma who still had her father, Marcus Thompson was exactly what a hero should be. Not someone seeking glory or fame. Just someone who showed up when needed and did what had to be done. And that, more than any medal or recognition, was enough.